teachers of Reddit, what is the most delusional thing you've seen a parent do? My mother was a lunch lady when I was in kindergarten, and there was a girl who was morbidly obese in my class. She couldn't walk from the classroom to the lunchroom without getting sick from the physical activity. My mom and some of the other lunch ladies started tweaking the menu when she got in line to have the healthier options out for her to eat. Her mother caught wind of this and started packing her lunch, always with cookies and Twinkies and soda. I don't know how as a parent you can allow their child to live like that, to encourage it. I'm not saying don't give your kids treats, but how in the hell do you let it get to that point? Preschool teacher. One year I had a set of twins with some serious behavioral problems. They wouldn't do anything we wanted them to. They participated in nothing and did only what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it. Clean up time. My dad says I shouldn't have to clean because I'm not a girl, WTF. Did he really just say that? Yes, every single class. There were many conferences with the parents. The dad insisted kids were fine and they could do what they wanted. We'd explain that in order for us to teach them anything, including how to behave appropriately in a classroom setting before kindergarten next year, he'd have to tell them to listen to us. But he felt that his 4-year-old boys shouldn't listen to any woman, including their own mother, who had so little control over them that she never took them out of the house, which she reported they had completely destroyed. Their behavior was so terrible that we assumed they were on the spectrum before we spoke with the dad, and maybe they were, but mostly, they've been raised to believe that women are never in a position of authority. And the worst part? They had a younger boy and another on the way. That poor woman. Her husband had completely hobbled her ability to raise them, while leaving her to raise them alone while he worked. They told the director they were moving back to the Middle East just before she kicked them out for being utterly unmanageable. I used to teach children's art classes. One girl turned up and shyly said hi to me. Her mum got cross with her and sternly made her go back outside so that she could re-enter the room and make an impression. The girl came back and gave me a nice big fake smile and wave and loudly said hello. The mother also spent way too much time making sure I realized that they lived in a very rich suburb and went to a very elite private school. My mom is a principal in a not very nice area and has had to deal with some pretty rough parents. A couple of months ago, some girl beat the shit out of another girl in the cafeteria. When my mom brought her down to the office, she threatened to fight my mom. So my mom called her mom. Her mom then came in and also threatened to fight her. No fighting occurred. Police were called though. I used to be a high school teacher's assistant during the summer. These summer classes were usually taken by students who failed them the first time around. One mother comes up to me at the end of the semester demanding to know how her daughter had failed math a second time. I told her that it was because she spent too much of her time socializing and texting on her phone during class, at which point the mom exploded saying that I was lying because her daughter didn't even have a phone, and that I was grading unfairly, and that her daughter shouldn't be having such a hard time with math, etc. Turns out the daughter bought a cell phone off a friend and got a pay-as-you-go contract behind her mother's back after she got her phone taken away the first time she failed math. I was a para in a special ed classroom. We had one boy with autism who was 9 years old. His mum told me one day that it hurts him to poop in the toilet. She would let him poop in his pants, then she would put the poop in the toilet and his underwear in a bucket of bleach water. He used the bathroom by himself no problem all the time at school. He was clearly not in pain pooping on the toilet. I teach 3rd grade. One of my kids, who made A's on nearly everything, had gotten an 87 on a creative writing assignment. The morning of the day, after I passed the papers back to them, she came up to me looking a little embarrassed and said her mom was going to come in around noon to talk to me about the grade. Past teachers had warned me that this girl had a helicopter mom, but I hadn't had any bad experiences with her yet, and we were a couple months into the school year. Sure enough, right as the lunch bell was about to ring, the door bursts open and in storms helicopter mom. She looked furious. I could tell she was about to lay into me in front of my entire class, but then a piercing metallic shriek hit my ears. One of her rotors had clipped the wall, and she just started falling apart and spinning out of control. A rotor flew across the room and killed 2 and injured 3, and then she crashed into our terrarium and burst into flames, killing the class's pet frog Scooter, and shrapnel from the wreckage peppered the front row of kids. A boy took a picture of a special needs girls, but because her jeans rode down a bit, he passed the picture around the school, which resulted in lots of bullying directed toward the girl. When the boy was suspended, his father appealed the suspension, blamed the school for targeting his child, and threatened to sue. This resulted in the best line I've ever heard from a school principal: "Fine. The moment I hear from your lawyer is the moment you'll be reading the charges I'll be filing on your student." My wife teaches. I'm her assistant. I help with grading papers, posting grades, classroom help with computers. She teaches special ed, mostly with inner city children who have never been able to learn to read. She can teach anyone to read. 3 years ago she was working with a boy who was in 7th grade and unable to read. After a few months she got him up to 3rd grade level. Then his mama came to school very angry. "You gonna stop this shit. I's going to lose his learning disability check if they find out he can read. Mind your own damn business." My first parent conference, 2005. Mom brings a large cardboard box full of hand lotion and a doctor's note for her student. Doc's note states that student is to use restroom each class period as needed. Large cardboard box full of hand lotion is for son's insatiable desire to masturbate. Side note, 6 months into my first year teaching, this kid asks to use restroom. I allow him. While in the restroom he scales a 10-foot cinder block wall into ceiling tiles and tries to cross over to women's restroom. He uses a pencil to poke holes into the ceiling tiles so he can peek into women's restroom stalls. Eventually his weight causes him to fall through the tiles, and he impacts the support walls of 2 stalls. End result: broken clavicle and humerus, separated shoulder, torn ligament in knee, and severe concussion. After incident, student is expelled from school and enrolls in outdoor program. I'm not a teacher, but I'm sure if the teacher in question was a Redditor my story would be here. My primary school taught Chinese. My mum is so staunchly racist towards Asians that she refused to let me participate in these lessons. The school said they weren't going to employ someone to sit in a classroom and supervise me while all the other students had the Chinese lesson. So my mum did it. Once a week throughout grades 1 to 7, all my classmates would go to another classroom for their lesson, while I would stay in my classroom with no one but my mum. I was working with a class of gifted high school students taking a summer course. During a field trip, one of my students needed to go to a doctor's appointment and would be picked up early by her parents. The only way to contact the group on the field trip was my cell phone, so the parents got my personal number. In the week left in the summer course, I received 23 text messages and 15 calls asking why their 10th grade daughter had not called them back. At a statewide convention for middle schoolers that included a talent show. Basically a bunch of middle school kids from mostly rural areas doing magic tricks, singing, playing an instrument, signing a song in ASL, etc. Mother tells her daughter that there might be talent scouts. Their daughter freaks and bombs her talent. Seriously? What talent scout hits up middle school talent shows? My mother worked as a librarian at the high school I went to. My freshman year she somehow changed my class schedule to all senior classes. Algebra 2, Spanish 2 ECT. I had never taken the first year classes. After a week of total chaos, I went to my guidance counselor to get my classes changed. He did not know how she did this. Her excuse was he does not apply himself and was sure I could have passed these classes. FML. I once saw the parent of a football player have a stern talk with the coach because his son wasn't the starting inside linebacker. Part of what made it delusional is that his son was starting at outside linebacker, so he was already getting more playing time than the 30 or so other players that didn't have a starting role. What made it even more delusional was that the guy's son was essentially playing inside linebacker anyways. We ran a 40 base defense under the look of a 4-2-3 defense. That means that before every play our strong safety moves into the outside linebacker role, and one of the outside linebackers becomes an inside linebacker. TL. Doctor, dude complains that his son isn't a starting inside linebacker. His son is a starting linebacker. I worked for a socialization program for children with special needs. I had a mother of a fantastic young boy with severe autism and no verbal skills full out argue publicly with my boss that he needed to be moved to a class with the highest functioning kids. She told us her baby had nothing wrong with him. He's a wonderful kid, but he couldn't handle that much stimuli. He clearly struggled to be able to communicate. I think a fair amount of parents whose children have special needs are really in denial and to the detriment of their children's development. I hate to be a not me, but my friend is a 6th grade teacher. The way her middle school works is that she is in charge of a class of about 25 kids. She teaches them a few subjects, I know math, science, reading/spelling, and then switches with her partner teacher to teach his kids the same subjects, while he does social studies and whatever other subjects there are with her class. Not too long ago, kids in her class began to complain that things were missing from their desks. They were able to keep the things they didn't need for their lessons in the other room in their desks. Whole lunches turned up missing, all in the vicinity of this one boy. Her partner eventually caught him with something that was reported missing, and the principal made him empty his pockets. He was stealing everything. They were lenient with him, only sternly warning him not to do it any longer. The next time, they called the school security officer in to speak with him and sent a note home to his parents. The third time, they gave him ice and called his parents for a conference. His dad apparently flipped out on the phone, saying that his son did nothing wrong and that he knew what they were doing. Turns out, the boy was telling his parents that his teachers were planting the stolen items on him to get him in trouble, and his parents believed him. My poor friend is so frustrated, even though he's not technically in her class, and has been trying to get him and his parents to speak with a social worker, but it's been to no avail. Principal here had a kid who was gifted and who almost died at birth. Mom felt super guilty, and as a result, she wouldn't dare do or say anything to upset him, so kid ran the show. Kid got other kids and teachers in trouble by lying, then would tell his mom some story and she would come sailing into his defense. Even said her son would never lie. Anyway, the year in my school was a gong show. After that year, kid convinced his mother the whole school was full of bullies, mean teachers and an incompetent principal. They withdrew him and put him in a private school. Good move. I'm not a teacher, but I have got to share the type of character that my friend's mom is. She is the worst human being I've ever had the displeasure to meet. She is rude, demanding, controlling, and borderline abusive to her family. We'll call her Psycho Mom. Background knowledge: a door does not open in my friend's house without an announcement going off over the loudspeaker and a notification going to Psycho Mom's phone. There are cameras in and around the house. Psycho Mom can access anything and everything on my friend's phone before even he has access to it. My friend's phone is tracked, and his car is tracked. My friend is an Eagle Scout, is a distinguished honors student, is in the top 20 of a 600 student class, is a leader in both of his chorus classes, has gotten lead parts in the past 3 plays, and has honestly never done anything worth making his mom this suspicious of him. My friend's girlfriend moved here from the UK a few years ago. In Psycho Mom's words, that whore's only dating you so that she can get pregnant and get a green card. She volunteered at our school's post-prom event. Between prom and post-prom, our group was all changing at one of our friends' houses. On the way to post-prom, they got stuck on a red light. Because he and his girlfriend showed up literally 2 minutes later than the rest of the group, he lost his car for a few days and is grounded.